You probably think athletes go broke because they're irresponsible, because they buy too many cars, throw too many parties, and just don't think ahead. That's the easy explanation. That's what the headlines tell you. But that explanation is wrong. Or at least, it's dangerously incomplete. Because here's what the data actually shows. According to a 2009 Sports Illustrated investigation, 78% of NFL players face serious financial hardship within just 2 years of retirement. 60% of former NBA players are broke within 5 years of leaving the league. These are not a few bad apples. This is a systemic pattern, repeating itself decade after decade across every major sport in America. This isn't a story about one athlete making one bad choice. This is a story about a financial system that is almost perfectly designed to make athletes fail. Let me show you how it works. He earned over $430 million in the ring. $430 million? Enough to buy a private island. Enough to fund a small country. And by the time he was 37 years old, Mike Tyson was completely, utterly, legally broke. $23 million in debt, with the IRS knocking on his door. So here's the question no one wants to answer honestly. Where did the money go? And more importantly, could the same thing happen to almost any athlete, no matter how much they earned? The answer is yes. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why. The first thing you need to understand is that an athlete's contract number, the one you see on the headline, is not the money they keep. Not even close. When an NFL quarterback signs a $20 million deal, the celebration starts immediately. The news ticker runs. The fans cheer. But before that athlete spends a single dollar on himself, the system takes its cut. Federal income tax alone removes 37% off the top. Then come state taxes, and in California or New York, you're adding another 10 to 13%. Then there's the jock tax, the unique surcharge that taxes athletes not just where they live, but in every city they play an away game. Some players pay taxes in 10, 15 different states in a single season. Studies show that top NFL players can lose more than 45 cents of every dollar earned before they ever see it. That $20 million contract? After taxes, the athlete might walk away with $10 to $11 million. Not nothing, but already cut in half. And the deductions have barely started. Now come the agents. Standard agency fee, 3 to 4%. Then the financial advisor, the sports attorney, the publicist, the personal trainer. In total, the professional layer around a top athlete can consume another 10 to 15% of gross income. By the time real money actually lands in the athlete's personal account, a $20 million contract year can net closer to $8 or $9 million. Still a lot of money, right? And here's exactly where the trap begins. Because here's the number that changes everything. And I promised you earlier I'd give it to you. The average NFL career lasts just 3.3 years. The average NBA career, less than 5 years. Boxing and MMA are even more brutal. Most fighters earn meaningful money for only a narrow window of their prime. So let's do the real math. An NFL player earns $2 million a year, the league average, for 3.3 years. After taxes, fees, and costs, he might actually pocket $6 to $7 million total in his entire professional career. Spread that over 40 or 50 years of normal adult life, and you're looking at $150,000 a year. Comfortable, but not wealthy. Not generational, not untouchable. And most players aren't earning the average. Most are on the league minimum, around $750,000 a year before taxes, for a career that might end with an injury in year 2. That is the illusion at the heart of professional sports. The numbers look enormous, the lifestyle looks limitless, but the actual financial window is shockingly narrow. Now add one more layer to this, the entourage. When an athlete comes from nothing, and many of the greatest athletes in American sports history grew up in genuine poverty, the first thing that happens when money arrives is pressure. Not greed. Pressure. Family members who struggled. Childhood friends who never got a break. The neighborhood that raised you. All of them watching. Some of them asking. Some of them not even asking. Just expecting. Allen Iverson understood this better than almost anyone. The answer he gave later in life was brutally honest. He said he never felt like the money was just his. It was everyone's money. And so he spent like everyone needed a piece of it. Iverson earned over $200 million during his 14-year NBA career, one of the longest and most decorated careers in league history. He was the first overall pick in 1996. He made the All-Star team 11 times. He won the scoring title 4 times. At the peak of his fame, in 2001, he signed a lifetime endorsement deal with Reebok that paid him $800,000 every single year for the rest of his life. By 2012, Allen Iverson was filing for bankruptcy. In a divorce proceeding that year, he admitted in court that he didn't have money for a cheeseburger. His wife reached into her wallet and gave him $61, $200 million, 11 All-Star selections, and $61 in his pocket. How? Lavish spending. A massive entourage, cars, jewelry, private expenses for dozens of people around him, poor financial management, legal costs, divorce, a lifestyle architecture built for a king but sustained by an income that eventually stopped. Iverson wasn't stupid. He wasn't reckless in the simple headline sense of the word. He was caught in a system he was never taught to navigate. No one had ever sat him down and explained the difference between earning money and keeping money. But wait, because Iverson's story has a twist that almost no one talks about. That lifetime Reebok deal, $800,000 a year, guaranteed for life, was actually structured as a trust fund that Iverson could not touch until age 55. The very deal he signed at the peak of his fame turned out to be the only thing standing between him and true financial ruin. A trust he didn't control. A safety net built into the contract by someone else, protecting him from himself. He didn't save himself. A clause in a shoe contract saved him. Let that sink in for a moment, because it tells you everything about how athletes relate to wealth and why the system so often wins. Now let's talk about the man who might be the most extreme example of this pattern in all of sports history, Mike Tyson. At 20 years old, Mike Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in history. By his mid-20s, he was being called the most feared man on the planet. His fights were events. His face was everywhere. His purse for a single night in the ring could reach $30, $40, even $103 million. Over his career, Tyson earned an estimated $430 million, closer to $700 million in today's money. In 2003, he filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, $23 million in debt, $13 million owed to the IRS alone. The spending that Tyson himself described publicly was staggering. Mansions in multiple states, white Bengal tigers as pets, each one costing tens of thousands per month to maintain, a bathtub made of solid gold, parties that cost millions per night, a lifestyle so extreme that even people around him were shocked by the scale of it. But here's what most people miss about Tyson's collapse. It wasn't just the spending, it was the structure, or the total absence of it. Tyson's promoter Don King received a percentage of every fight purse. Lawyers, managers, and handlers all fed from the same source. Tyson himself later stated in interviews that he never fully understood his own finances, that people around him managed his money and he trusted them. That trust cost him hundreds of millions of dollars. Tyson earned $30 million for some fights and had nothing left within months. Not years. Months. That's not a spending problem. That's a structural failure. A man inside a financial system designed to extract maximum value from his talent while leaving him with minimum protection. And Tyson wasn't alone. Let me give you one more name. Vince Young. In 2006, Vince Young was the most electrifying quarterback in college football. He led the Texas Longhorns to a national championship in what many people still call the greatest college football game ever played. He was taken 3rd overall in the NFL draft. The Tennessee Titans paid him over $50 million. By the time he was 30 years old, Vince Young had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. His assets at the time of filing, between $500,000 and $1 million. His liabilities, between $1 million and $10 million. A man who earned over $60 million with less than $1 million to his name at 30 years old. And here's the part that should make you stop. Vince Young said later that he didn't lose his money to partying. He lost it to the people he trusted. His former agent and his former financial advisor were sued for defrauding him, diverting proceeds from a $1.8 million loan Young had taken during the 2011 NFL lockout. He trusted the wrong people he paid to protect him, and they took from him instead. This is the other side of the system that almost never makes the headlines. Athletes aren't just sometimes irresponsible, they are also often targeted by advisors, by promoters, by business partners who know that a young athlete with a new contract and no financial education is the easiest client in the world to exploit. So why does this keep happening? Why, with all the money in professional sports, with all the agents and advisors and union protections, does this pattern repeat itself generation after generation? Here's the part that will change how you think about this. Sports leagues generate billions. The teams are worth billions. The TV deals are worth billions. But the athletes, the actual humans whose bodies and talent make all of it possible, operate inside a career structure that is fundamentally hostile to long-term wealth building. You cannot dollar cost average your career. You cannot defer your peak earning years. You cannot work until 65 and let compound interest do its job. You earn your maximum in a window that might be 2 years or 5 years or 10 if you're extraordinarily lucky, and then it stops, completely. And during that window, you are surrounded by a professional ecosystem that profits from your earnings. Agents profit, managers profit, promoters profit, attorneys profit, financial advisors profit. Everyone around an athlete's income has a reason to maximize what flows through, not a reason to maximize what the athlete actually keeps. Most professional athletes enter that system at 18, 19, or 20 years old. They come from communities that never taught personal finance. They sign contracts written by people with law degrees. They are handed decisions worth millions of dollars before they have ever managed even thousands. And then we are surprised when it doesn't end well. Here's the twist that I want to leave you with, because it reframes everything you just heard. The athletes who go broke are not the exception. According to the data, they are closer to the rule. The ones who build lasting wealth, the Shaquille O'Neals, the LeBron Jameses, the athletes who turn their playing years into empires, are the ones who found a way to beat a system that was not designed for them to win. Shaq invested in Google before it exploded. He built restaurant franchises. He treated his playing career as seed capital, not a destination. But Shaq understood something most 19-year-old rookies don't. That in professional sports, the day you sign your first contract is not the beginning of financial security. It is the beginning of a race. A race to convert short-term income into long-term structure before the window closes. Most athletes never get told that. Most find out too late. And that is not a failure of character. It is a failure of education, of support structures, and of a system that is very good at producing spectacular moments and very poor at protecting the people who create them. The scoreboard goes dark. The contracts end. The crowds go home. But the financial decisions, the ones made in a few years, in a few rooms, by a few people, those last a lifetime. In professional sports, making millions and keeping millions are two completely different games. And almost no one teaches athletes how to play the second one.